Okay, 5 mistakes to avoid with your S5IIX. I've been using it here for a couple weeks now. Thanks to LUMIX, I've been using it for a couple weeks. There's just a few things that you might want to avoid, some mistakes that you might want to avoid when it comes to the S5IIX. I have my notes. All right, so this is kind of the problem about shooting outside. You know, a lawnmower going, some construction over here. So it's just a little bit of an issue. It's a beautiful day though. Yep. There it is. There's the lawnmower. Now, if you're new here and you want to learn more about LUMIX cameras, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications because I got videos coming out all the time about these LUMIX cameras, especially S5II and S5IIX. So the first mistake with the S5IIX to avoid is not using all the tools that have been given to you in this camera. S5IIX is such a great and powerful tool that has all these little micro tools in there to help you, especially with like exposure. So if you are wondering how to nail your exposure with your S5IIX or the S5II, make sure you go check out this video that's popping up here because I go through all of the tools that the S5II and the S5IIX have for nailing your exposure. So use those tools that are in this camera when it comes down to the exposure and those cinema camera style settings that you have in here. And it's super loud. Yeah, it's great. Should have just shot this in the studio. So the first mistake is not using those tools. Make sure you use them. You have them, the waveform, the luminous spot meter. I'm not gonna get into all of them in this video. This is just the talking head, but make sure you check out the video that I have linked up there. The second mistake you wanna avoid when you start shooting with the S5IIX is not utilizing the 6K open gate mode. Now, shooting 6K open gate has really changed the way that I shoot video, and you can check that out in this video that's popping up right here. But the fact that you have the full sensor readout when you shoot 6K open gate is, I mean, honestly incredible in a camera like this. Rather than turning your camera and shooting vertical like this, use that 6K open gate mode because you can use the full height of the sensor, but then you can also go and cut out or edit a square cut or a 16:9 cut, and you have all of that information that makes it so easy to make different edits from the same footage. And this one goes for the S5II as well, but make sure you utilize that 6K open gate mode. Another mistake you want to avoid with the S5IIX is not customizing all of these different buttons that you have on this camera. So basically all of these buttons on here, they're all customizable, even this front button right up here. So take advantage of customizing these buttons. Set your waveform up on here, set your stabilization up. So take advantage of how customizable this camera is because you can set up a lot of shortcuts just with these buttons right on here. The main shortcuts I use is that stabilization, the waveform, zebra pattern, and then on the dial you can customize some of the, slow motion settings if you want to do that. But having those quick shortcuts at the tip of your fingers literally saves so much time and gives you so much control over this camera. Now, another mistake that you want to avoid with the S5IIX is not shooting in vlog. Now I have a color profile confession video that you can check out that's popping up on your screen, which I go into more depth about this, but shoot vlog with this camera. You have 14 stops of dynamic range when you shoot vlog. You can monitor with the Rec 709 LUT built in there, and converting the footage is super easy, especially with the Panasonic Convert LUT that is free to download. It makes it so easy to shoot with and edit that footage when you shoot in vlog. I've always been a huge fan of the natural color profile on the LUMIX cameras, and I get more into this in that video that I showed you. But when you're shooting vlog, you have such a beautiful image out of these LUMIX cameras, especially the S5IIX, in some of the high bitrate shoot settings that you have on this camera. Fully take advantage of vlog on the S5IIX. Another mistake is not taking advantage of SSD recording or HDMI RAW on the S5IIX. Fully unlock all of the shoot settings that the S5IIX has, and they are hefty shoot settings. you're going to want to record to an SSD drive through USB. This will allow you to shoot those all-intra codecs, those high megabit per second codecs that will give you, the best color control and give you the sharpest image out of this camera. And a lot of these settings are very professional style settings. And that's one advantage the X has over the S5 II is you have a lot of those professional settings in this camera. So take advantage of them. You may need time to grow into them. You may need a new computer that processes those files eventually. But the S5 IIX and those shoot settings is going to kind of future-proof your video production. Now I have a whole video about my love-hate relationship with SSD recording that is popping up on your screen right here. But to fully unlock the power of the S5 IIX, you're going to want to take advantage of the SSD recording and the raw output or B-raw output through HDMI. Now, as this video lives on YouTube, is there anything that you would add to that list? Let me know down in the comments and we can get a conversation started down there. But if you're interested in the S5 II or S5 IIX and want to know how I set up these cameras for video, for cinematic shooting, make sure you check out the video that's popping up on your screen right here. It's going to go through all of my settings that you can just copy and put right on your camera.